Yeah, there we go. There we go. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Which mic we got? We got that one. Okay. Check, 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 check. Tommy says the show's going to be late. No, Tommy, the show is always late. The show is always late. What can I say? You know, I sleep till noon, so what do you guys expect? Hey, Rudy's here. Welcome, Rudy. I am so impressed. Rudy's doing such good stuff. Okay, let's see. Let's get all our ducks in a row, as it were. We don't have our ducks in a row from last week, so I don't know. I don't know what you expect. Let's see. What are we doing here? There we go. Who's here? Nick's here. Daniel's here. Dave's here. Tommy's here. Jan's here. Doggy is here. Prashana. And German V. Portillo Potetalco. Boy, you have to help me on that one. Timothy, Ovanas, John, Amnon, Chris, Dan, Michael, Mike, Cliff, Christopher, Kenny, Rudy, of course, John, and who else just joined us? Somebody just popped in there in the middle. Brandon. There we go. Okay. Tommy says your website ain't working. My website's not working? Oh dear. Well, that's no good. I didn't know that. You know, I meant to check that earlier. But, okay, let's see. It's working on this end. Yep, there we go. It's working. Tommy, don't scare me like that. That's just, I know where you live. All right, let's see. What did I miss? What did I miss? What did I miss? Broadcasting from the canyon. Actually, you know, that would be an idea. That would be an idea. Jens is here. Welcome, Jens. Very good. Very good. Let's see. Who else just popped in? No, I had a call this morning from a new Streaming Idiots member, Sam. And Sam had some questions about vMix audio. And it just, you know, I've been meaning to tackle this for so long because it's always a challenge for me, so I thought I would. So we're in pre-show here. We did not fix all the shortcut problems that we had from last week. Doggone it. Oh well. So we'll just have to fake it again. Let's see. Something I was going to share with you guys. Andrew's here. Welcome, Andrew. Don't remember what it is. Oh well. Oh well, such is life. Okay, let's see. If you are watching us on Facebook, first of all, let me just say I'm delighted if that's the case. And if you're watching us on YouTube directly, that's cool too. We won't be following the comments on Facebook until after the show. Just can't keep up with everything, you know, one person, that kind of deal. But I would invite you to come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com, right down there at the bottom. And that way you can get in on the chat. Because I'm getting all these questions in chat. And I'll respond in just a second. But anyway, the chat is a great way to talk with me and to talk with everybody else that's there. So I invite you to come on over, easternshorebroadcasting.com. You'll get the YouTube feed, the YouTube video and audio feed, and you'll get the chat. And you can pop them both out and position them wherever you want to on your screen if you're watching on a big screen or something like that. Jan says, so Tom, did they fix your internet at home yet? No. No. I mean, I have it, but I don't have the full speed. So, and they say, oh, yeah, we're going to get it fixed soon. But it's very not satisfactory. Michael says, Tom must really like JPEG artifacts to use that background. Yeah, this is an old background I just threw up today, Michael. Um, Dave says, ain't working means it's working fine. Thank you, Dave. The translation was lost on me. And Yen says, yeah, I don't speak, what is that? Is that Dutch, Swedish, Danish? Don't get it. Jan, it's going to require some major either expenditure on their part or major, either physical expenditure for equipment or manpower to dig up something, and they need permits and from the local municipalities, and also for probably for Mediacom, the provider. So I've just bailed on that path of least resistance. I'm here in the new studio. Here's a quick shot of it. It looks a little different from that now, but that's the same basic. We'll be doing a full studio tour when we get it to the point where it just doesn't look so horrible. You know how it is when you're getting started. It's Danish. Okay, that was a good guess. It was not my first guess. That's no problem. Y'all chat amongst yourselves. I got no problem with that. Just don't say bad things about me that I can't read. Andrew, welcome. Glad you're here. Yen's got too much sun. Mules and plow to lay a new cable. Well, Tommy, that's about what it takes to get a permit. Yeah, we need permits excuse. Yeah, and you would think America, the land of the free, we would have less restriction, but that's really not the case. We are restricted right and left. And in some ways it's probably good because it's, one person's unrestricted access is somebody else's invasion of privacy. So we'll work on it. Hey, we're going to get started here in just a second. Big shout out to all of you that are watching live and have joined us in the chat at easternshorebroadcasting.com. Come on over easternshorebroadcasting.com and get in on the chat right now so that you can see this. Let's take a look. How do you turn that thing off? Golly. There we go. Shoo. And there are about half a dozen folks watching on Facebook, so come on over. We'd love to have you in on the single chat. Andrew says, I don't believe I got up at 4:30 a.m. to watch you. Well, Andrew, I don't believe you did either. Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. I love it. I love it. That was a good tickle. Jan says that's precisely why we use Danish. It's more fun that way, knowing there's a risk you may put it through Google Translate later. Hey, I hadn't thought about that. That's good. I ought to have just a regular old Translate plugged right into the software. Can you do that? You probably can. Dave says, sorry to hear you just threw up, Tom. No, that's not me. That must be the other Tom. Hey, Jerome's here. Hey, Jerome, welcome. Glad you're here. We're going to get started in just a second. Rich is here. Glad to have you. And Andrew's watching us from Queensland, Australia. Wow. Dude, hat tip for getting up that early. Yep. Rich says, Tom's show is done. No, Rich, we haven't even started yet. You're okay. Prashana said, some wake up and some of us don't sleep at all. Oh, that's right, because it's like 2:30 in the morning for Prashana. And let's see, who else is just joined us that I haven't seen yet? Martin K is here. Welcome, Martin. Jerry's here. Glad to have you. And looking on the list. Looks like I got everybody here. And so we've got quite a few folks that are watching us when they should be sleeping. You should be sleeping. All right. One of the downsides for today's show, and it was the same as last week's show, is that we don't have Martin Kay's super duper intro. Oops, let's turn that off. It just, my working on other things and didn't get a chance to fix it so that it was working right with the push of a button this week. So we will have to do this somewhat manually. And Otis is here. Hey, Otis, glad to have you. Glad to have you. So let's see. Let's make sure we got all our ducks in a row here. Again, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com and get in on the chat. That's the cool part to do. And do we have a shortcut that allows? I've got some scripts in the vMix 4K or vMix Pro editions. You can use some scripts that can do all sorts of crazy things. For me, I'm running 2 PCs here, and so my primary production PC, I'm telling the second PC, which is my recording and streaming PC, to start streaming, start recording, and I do that with scripts, and so I can just address it on the network. And let's see. So we want to see which scripts those are. 56. I just want to find the script that starts recording. There it is. All right, number 56. So what is number 56? Number 56 is overlay input 4. I don't think so. Let's get rid of that one. Close. Yes. All right, so number 56, we're going to give it a new number. We're going to give it that button right there. That one right there. Number 60, that's going to start the recorder. Okay, and then that stops the recorder. So we're going to make that be the one to the left of it. There we go. Okay. All right, so we got those ready. Let's see if that one will start the recorder. Yes, it does. And that one will stop the recorder. Yes, it does. Okay, so we got that quick and dirty. Quick and dirty. Just say no to the mouse, says Dan. Can y'all hear that? Oh, how many of them? I've got 4 mics hooked up today. Well, I won't get into the show stuff in the middle of the show, but let's, yes, Andrew Gillen, that's what that is. Okay, I'm up to date with what you guys want to talk about. Let's go here, let's go here, and 3, 2, 1. Now let's, instead of stretching out for this thing, let's just bring it in like that. Hey, I'm Tom Sinclair, and this is Streaming Idiots. Welcome. So glad to have you here today. Yeah, the show just started officially with no intro today. Yeah, I broke the intro. I've got to fix it. My apologies, but we'll get that done. Today's show is all about audio. You know, is this thing on? Is this thing working? Do I hear an echo? I don't hear anything. What am I going to do about audio? Well, I wanted to start with, I got a call today from Sam. Sam's a great guy. Love talking to him, and I know we'll talk again, but he had a quick question about audio, and 20 minutes later, you know, we concluded our call, and that's okay. I don't mind a quick question every now and then, and quick has all sorts of definitions. But the problem was his audio, you know, it wasn't working. Well, what's the deal with audio? You can't see it. You know, it's not like a camera where you can color correct and do all those other kinds of things. It's not like a video that's playing in the background that you can tell whether it's playing or not, or, you know, if it stops looping. This is a looping background. If it stops looping, you can tell, you can see it. Audio, you can't always tell what's going on. Even if you have an echo, you might not be able to hear it. Or you might have an echo that nobody else can hear. Or you might be able to hear everything and nobody else can hear it. Or, you know, you think of all the possibilities, and those are just the simple possibilities. Well, I wanted to talk something about that today, and I also want to talk a little bit about different microphones in different environments. And so what I've done today is I went ahead and I hooked up 4 different mics to my system. I've got the mic that I've been using for the last 3 weeks, which is not my regular mic, but it's my Audio-Technica ATR 2100. It was $60, $70 on Amazon. It's USB, it's XLR, it's a great little mic. It has an on-off button, which will catch you, believe me, I know. And it's a dynamic mic, and it's probably really intended to be used more like this. But I don't care for the mic in the camera shot look. So I'm going to send it right out there, and I've got to pump up the gain and do some other things. And as a result, you end up hearing some background noise. I'm also using, let's see, where is it right here? That's going to be mic number 2. Mic number 2. This is mic number 2. This is my Audio-Technica AT897. It's a shotgun mic, a condenser mic that's sitting just out of the camera view here. And that's my regular mic. That's the mic that I used when I was in my home studio. And I had very carefully, I won't say soundproofed, but I'll say sound treated my room to absorb sound and to bounce it around lots of different ways so it didn't echo. My studio today has got a tile floor and walls with glass windows, and the only saving grace is that it's got an acoustical tile ceiling. So it's probably got some room noise in it, and you can really hear it right there. So, and you're saying you need more volume on that one. Yeah, let's turn that up a little bit. There we go. Check, check, check. Yeah, that might be just a tad too much. So that's mic number 2. That's mic number 2. Let's switch over to mic number 3. This is mic number 3, and this is a lav mic. You can see it right here. There you go. And check, 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 check. It's a little low. Let's see if we can bump it up a little bit. There we go. Check, check, check. That's a little better. It's an old mic. It's a Shure 84A. And it's hooked into an Audio-Technica ATW R250, which is a wireless receiver and transceiver. It's an old one. Amnon said it's a lot low. Yeah. Well, but it's if I talked into it like this, it'd make a difference. And so that's another mic that I've got here that I'm just playing around with today. All those are set on the same delay, which is 250 milliseconds, which is not quite right, but it's pretty darn close. And all 3 of those are coming through the Behringer UMC 404 HD. The 2 Audio-Technica mics are coming in XLR, and then the Audio-Technica receiver transceiver with the Shure mic is coming in through a 1/4 inch. The 4th mic, and let's switch over to that one. The 4th mic, and you can probably identify what this mic is just by hearing it. Yes, let's see if anybody in the chat room can get this. What is that? What is that mic? Can you guess what that mic is? We should have set up a contest. Doggone it. Amnon says it's a cam. That's partially right. John says it's a mic in a can. Mike says it's a laptop. That's a good guess. Dan says laptop. I'm waiting for it. Come on. You guys are getting close. PTC Optics, says Rudy. No? Ah, Nick. Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. It's a Logitech C920. That's right. Logitech C920. So it's like a camera mic in that it's a crappy mic. It's like a webcam mic in a laptop in that it's a crappy mic, in my opinion. I mean, I guess it's better than nothing, but it's not that much better than nothing. And I don't know if you saw the little intro that we did and then we put on Facebook and Twitter earlier. Basically, it had all 4 mics going with 4 different delays set in each one. And let's get off of this mic because I really don't care for it. We're going to go back to the ATR 2100. Amnon says, somebody needs to tell Tom that a C920 is a cam. Well, yes, it is a cam, but in vMix, it was not brought in as a camera. It was brought in as an audio input. That is, you can bring the audio in to vMix separately than the camera. So I brought it in as an audio input, so it shows up in my audio input section, and I don't have to worry about the camera portion of it. So 4 different mics, 2 different ways. Actually, they're all connected via USB. Michael was talking earlier on the Streaming Idiots group about having trouble, or no, Michael wasn't talking about having trouble, but he was saying that he rarely will use the 1/8" jack to bring in audio to a laptop or a desktop. But that's not really where I wanted to go with this today. Where I wanted to go with this today was to talk a little bit about some of the Brandon says, that moment when you pause the show to do something else, come back and hit play and you realize you're not watching live. Yeah, I get it. We could wait a few minutes for Brandon to catch up, but I'm sorry, we really won't. In vMix, let me set up one more thing here. Yeah, we got off track. Sorry about that. We're talking a little bit about troubleshooting, and let me just open up a desktop capture, and let's see if I can get it. It is a display 1, display 2. Let's try just display 2. Yeah, there we go. And let's isolate that little window. Sorry about this. Appreciate your patience. Position, zoom. Crop. Come on, oh, that's too much crop. That's too little crop. Here we go. And turn on sharpen. There we go. Okay. All right, so you've got a situation where you don't have any audio in vMix. And I get this call at least once a week. And somebody will say, my audio's not working. Well, did it ever work? Well, yeah, it did, or no, it didn't, or whatever. But the vMix is broken. There's a bug in vMix. There's something wrong in vMix. And my first thought is, well, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe it's operator error. So if you've called with that question in the past, no, I didn't laugh at you after I hung up the phone. I nodded my head and said, there goes me. But the first thing to look at, this person had a mixer. It was some brand that I'd never heard of. It was attached via USB, and vMix didn't have any audio. Well, here's rule number 1. If Windows doesn't hear audio from an attached mixer, then vMix won't hear audio. It's a chain with many links. And so if you're on the vMix end of the chain and you don't hear audio, that means that somewhere in that chain, the audio broke. So you need to go back through that chain, or you could start at the other end and go forward through the chain to find that place where the audio no longer works. And fortunately for this person this morning, fortunately for Sam this morning, it was fairly easy, and that is we went to, let's see if we can pull it up here. Yeah, that'll work. We went to the Windows, to the sys tray in the bottom right-hand corner, and found the little speaker icon, and right-clicked it and selected Sounds, which brought us here. And then we went to Playback, which is the speakers, or you can go to Recording and see, where is the audio coming in? If we're going to listen for audio, where are we listening? Well, in this case, you can see here is the microphone, the HD Pro Webcam C920. It shows that it has audio. That's probably the only one of my audio inputs that show audio. And you say, Tom, how can that be? Well, let's go down that rabbit trail for just a second. Because the other three audio inputs, that is the Audio-Technica ATR 2100, the Audio-Technica AT897, and the Audio-Technica wireless receiver are all plugged into my Behringer UMC 404 HD and are coming into vMix as ASIO, A-S-I-O, ASIO audio devices, not Windows audio devices. So that's a different ballgame altogether. But in this particular case, we can see that Windows is receiving audio, for sure it's receiving audio from the Logitech C920. We can see the little mic bouncing up and down. And in Sam's case this morning, his mixer was connected via USB, and so we went through that same list and we looked for a USB input, and he said, yep, there it is. There it is. But the volume meter, the little volume meter on the side right there, wasn't bouncing up and down. There was dead. There was nothing there. And what that means is that Windows was not receiving the audio from the mixer. Well, this is a big 16-channel mixer with lots of buttons on it. I didn't see it, didn't catch the brand. It was a brand that I was not familiar with. It was a lot of initials that didn't appear to spell anything that, like, you know, like Behringer or Mackie or Yamaha or something that I would be familiar with in the audio line. And I don't believe it was a digital mixer. I think it was an old analog mixer. But the point of the matter was, his mixer wasn't sending the audio, wasn't outputting the audio over USB. It probably was outputting the audio somewhere, maybe, you know, 1/4 inch XLR, who knows what. And I remember running into a similar problem when I had my old Behringer X1204 USB mixer, and I was trying to get a mix of audio from the mixer into vMix over USB. And in that particular mixer, that Behringer mixer, the tape output, which is the two RCA connections on it, typically is a parallel connection to the USB. And so if you enable that tape connection to be an output, it also will output over USB in that particular mixer. And so I suggested that to this guy. You know, he hit a button on his mixer, and all of a sudden everything worked. But it was just one button's difference. But the trick for idiots, okay, and this, for those of you that come from a great audio background, you can ignore everything I'm about to say because it's probably bad advice. But the trick for idiots is think of audio as a chain. Each link in the chain being a connection or a device, a cable or a mixer or a mic or a port on your PC or a, what would you call it, a Windows audio driver like this microphone HD Pro webcam C920 right here. And each one of those links should be carrying the audio. Now, sometimes you can monitor it and sometimes you can't. And the trick is to figure out ways to monitoring it. If you're losing it, how do you know when you're losing it? And so it all depends on where you're losing it in order to figure out if that's where you've lost it. And sometimes when I get confused about it, I'll sit down and just write it out with a good old analog pen and an analog piece of paper and start with the mic and draw a line down representing the cable, you know, to where it connects and where that's supposed to go and where that's supposed to go and all the way around. And as you get used to doing that, that's really going to help you when you get into, you know, the second or third level of audio. This is Tom's idiot levels of audio now, where you might be wanting to create a mix minus where you'll understand better how the audio flows and how it mixes and where it mixes, so you know where to put your minus in. Tommy Willis is in chat, highly recommending the Campbell's microphones. Now, Tommy is in Alabama, and they have lots of cans of Campbell's tomato soup and lots of strings, and String them across. He tickles me. So if you're troubleshooting, don't assume, and here's the number one rule of troubleshooting, and I do this all the time. Oh my gosh. Don't assume it's the most difficult problem that could ever be imagined. Assume, to start with, that it's the most simple thing. Okay, I can hear you in the background saying, Tom, tell us the Epson story again. Okay, here's the Epson story. This was probably easily 20 years ago. Well, maybe 15. Anyway, it's in that range. Had an Epson. It was probably a dot matrix printer. And I had just purchased it. In fact, I purchased several of them on an auction. Didn't intend to get that many, but anyway, that's a different story. So I was getting it set up, and one day it was working, and one day it wasn't. And I went through every troubleshooting technique. I reinstalled drivers, and I did this, and I did that, and I did all sorts of things. And finally just gave up and looked in the owner's manual. Gave up, looked in the owner's manual, went through all the techniques in there, or at least thought I did, and gave up. And so I called Epson, and I was fussing. I was, you know how it is when you don't intend to be fussing, but I was fussing. And I went through all their push this, push 1 for that, and 2 for that, and 3 for that, and finally got to a tech and explained my problem. He said, Mr. Sinclair, let's go down the list. I said, great, let's go down the list. Finally, I've got somebody that's smart enough to understand all this. He said, Mr. Sinclair, is the printer plugged in? I was like, look, dude, I said this to myself, not to him. Look, dude, I have been going every which way trying to fix this problem. Of course the printer is plugged in. I wouldn't be calling you if it were plugged in. But I'm going to humor you, and this is all going through my mind in just a split second. I'm going to humor you, and I'm going to check and make sure that it's plugged in. And of course, it wasn't plugged in. But I was ready to assume the worst, and he was an experienced troubleshooter, tech support guy, and he said, let's start with the simple stuff first. So when you get into audio problems, start with the simple stuff. For example, here's a simple one that confounded me for at least 20 minutes one day. My Audio-Technica ATR 2100 USB is an interesting mic because can you see that it's got the model number right here, and then it's got this neat little stand, and then it's got some screws here, and that's a little light right there, and then of course it's got the top of the mic where it's like a flashlight. You shoot your audio into it. It doesn't do it from the side. And then it also has this button right here. This button is actually a switch. Sorry, I realized that my audio was going all over the place as I was moving the mic all over the place. That little button is a switch. And when that switch is in the OFF position, that means that microphone will not send audio anywhere. That's right. It will not send audio. You can do everything else you want to, but it will not send audio. 20 minutes I spent on that one. Check the simple stuff first. Draw a map of where the audio is supposed to go, and then check the different piece parts, the different links in the chain. It's probably easiest, I think, to start at the source and work forwards from the source as opposed to starting in your ear and working backwards. Because I think, at least in my experience, it can be, is the mic turned on? Is Windows receiving audio from the mixer? Start there. Most of the time, that's where the problems lie. When it's an audio, no audio situation. Now, let's talk about the second most, what would we say, most fun way, the second most likely way that somebody is going to have an audio problem And this is in vMix. So let me add another input here real quickly. Desktop capture. We'll capture that display over there. That's okay. All right. So I am going to add an audio input. So let's bring that in. Well, let's do this first. Let's make this live. So just bear with me. That's my desktop on my second monitor. But we're gonna drag this guy over here. Oh, you know what? Before we do, can we do this first? Yeah, we can. We're gonna sharpen that. That should make it just a little bit easier to read. And it really doesn't matter what all this stuff is. I just want to show you audio input right there. So I can go through my list of audio inputs, and here's my UMC ASIO driver. That's my Behringer UMC 404 HD, which really the only clue is the UMC part. And we'll use that as a good example. No, let's don't use that. Let's use the Logitech C920. There we go. We got that one right there. And a lot of times people will say, oh, I hear myself, and it's, you know, it's delayed. See this little guy right here, mute in headphones? Just click that little guy right there, and that will fix that problem. You will never, ever hear yourself delayed for this reason in your headphones. All right, so let's cancel out of that for a second. Let's go into, where is that? Logitech, there it is right there, okay. And this is actually the Logitech C920, the actual mic input that I added earlier. And you can see that little headset right down here in the bottom left-hand corner, and it's grayed out because it's not sending audio to the headset. When I click it, all of a sudden now I can hear my own audio in the headset. That's not a happy situation. It makes for all sorts of echoing kind of things here. So I'm going to turn it back off. There we go, right there. So if you hear audio as an echo, actually I couldn't hear it as an echo, could it? Let's switch mics again and see. Okay, so we're on the Audio Technica C920, and we'll do that. Oh gosh, there it is. Oh man, that's so annoying. I got to turn it off. Whew, that was terrible. Okay, let's go. All right, so if you hear your own voice echoing, it's probably because you've got the headset turned on. You say, well, I don't know how to set the headset. Okay, well, let's take a look at that. In vMix, there's something called settings. And let's go look at that page for a second. Oops, can't do that. Let's see, let's do this. We're gonna go here. Now we're gonna open up settings, and I'll drag that over there so you can see it. There we go, settings. We're going to audio outputs. Well, most people, the first thing they do when they set up vMix is they go to the audio output section and they start setting all sorts of audio outputs. That's what I did. I did it for months, and I about went crazy. I would think for the most part, you can probably get away with filling in none for most of those blanks as you drop it down and you see all those audio. Just think about it. You know, this is audio outputs. Where do we want the audio to go? Do we want the master audio to go anywhere? No, I don't want the master audio to go anywhere. vMix is going to record it and stream it automatically. I don't have to tell vMix to send the audio someplace in order for it to be recorded or streamed. The headphones, as you can see, is set to my Behringer UMC 404 HD, which is ASIO, and I'm sending it out there directly. I just happen to have A and B. This is for a TV set that's not hooked up right now, and this is for a virtual audio cable that I use sometimes when I'm doing a Skype or a Zoom. So they really could be none right now. The only thing that needs to be filled in is the headphones, and wherever my headphones are attached, that's what I'm choosing. I'm choosing ASIO driver. If I were to click OK right here, if I've made some changes, it'll want to restart vMix. But this should be as simple as possible. If you want audio to go outside of vMix, then send it out right here, one of these ways. But if you don't need audio to go outside of vMix, then don't send it. The only where I need it to go outside right now is to go outside to my ears. And in this case, I'm going to send it to the Behringer. So don't feel like you need to go in and populate those fields. Now, I think in some cases, they will come up in the default setting. They'll come up populated as the default Windows audio device. Well, if you remember we were in the sounds playback and recording a little while ago, that's where you set the default for the Windows audio device. But here's a clue. If you leave it set to default Windows audio device, I was talking to somebody the other day that had this happen. And Windows updated, and when it updated, it changed his default audio device. And so all of a sudden, vMix wouldn't work anymore. Well, vMix was doing exactly what it was told to do, which was to go to the default Windows audio device, but Windows had changed the default audio device without his permission. Windows does that. But if you tell vMix exactly what you want, that is, I want the UMC ASIO driver, which I know is my Behringer because I'm listening to it right now, then you get what you want. So tell vMix what you want. Don't tell it a bunch of extra stuff that you think, oh, well, maybe it's good if I send the master output to the speakers. In fact, let's talk about speakers for just a second. Speakers. Yeah, speakers. Speakers. Here's the easiest thing about speakers. Don't use them. Don't recommend them. Don't turn them on. Don't plug them in. Speakers, shh. Don't use speakers. Speakers is like, I can think of what it's like, but I won't say it. Speakers is like a sneeze. A sneeze goes everywhere. You know, maybe you can try to control it here, or it's going to come out your ears if you're not careful. Speakers are like a sneeze. Don't use speakers because you can't control it. If you want to monitor audio in your ears. I have these implants. No, I'm just teasing. It's just a $10 set of Walmart earbuds that I've had for years. I don't know how they survived this long. I got the high-end $10 ones. But the idea is I want the audio where only I can hear it. If I have speakers, then what else is going to hear it? Well, this mic is going to hear it, and this mic is going to hear it, and that mic is going to hear it, and this other mic over here is going to hear it. And yeah, it's going to create all sorts of problems. Somebody was telling me, I think it was Sam this morning, we were talking about vMix Call. And they were using, they had a guest that was calling in on vMix Call, but there was an echo on the guest's audio. So was the guest using speakers? Well, he could have been. I've even had situations where the guest wasn't using speakers. They were using a headset, and then, of course, there was a headset mic, and the headset was not a closed headset. It was one of the kind that just kind of rests on your ears. And the headset mic was picking up the audio from the headset, and it was producing an echo. And so I would talk to them, and then a second and a half later, I'd hear myself come back real low, just kind of in the background. That's a clue that it's probably coming from a very low volume set of speakers. That's why the earbuds are good, because they don't put. Kiwi Chris says, "I value my ears too much to take that advice." Amnon says, "I only use speakers." Who was it? I think it was Nate the other day that was looking for a disposable set of earbud type devices so that he could just give them to every guest on a show, everybody that had their own show or hosted their own show could have their own set. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, in this case, they were, again, $8 or $10, and it means that nobody had to deal with somebody else's ears. And it also meant that everybody could monitor the audio, and in a studio situation, that's exactly what you want. Um, and to get, here's a good one for those of you that like to go into the weeds on this, and we'll probably close with this one. The whole idea of a mix minus, and if you're an audio newbie like me, I'm an audio newbie, 10 years later, still a newbie. It took me 2 years to get the very basic understanding of a mix minus. And fortunately, Mike stood with me and really helped me, Amnon's friend. And let me explain it to you very simply, is if you're sending audio to somebody's ears, they probably want to hear all the audio in the world except their own voice, especially if their own voice is delayed just a bit. So it's called a mix minus, a mix of all the audio minus their own audio, a mix minus. So here with the Behringer, and let's go into the weeds with the Behringer for a second. This is the Behringer UMC 404 HD. I've said that a time or two. The Behringer will allow me to monitor the audio at the Behringer, and I can hear in real time with virtually zero latency latency my own voice. So that's not a problem. I kind of like hearing my own voice. It's reassuring to hear my own voice. I can hear my own tone and inflection a little better than wearing earbuds and not having my own voice in my mix. But since my Behringer UMC is attached to my PC via USB, and since vMix is set, you remember you saw just a second ago the vMix headphone the audio output section of vMix, audio output, not input now, audio output in the settings, was the headphones were set for the UMC 404 HD, UMC ASIO driver. So that meant that all the audio in vMix, except the audio coming from the Behringer, was going back to the Behringer. Now it's delayed ever so slightly, but that's okay. It doesn't matter to me that it's delayed slightly because it's not my voice. So if it's a prompt from Windows, if it's my vMix caller and there's 100 milliseconds of latency, it's not a big deal. I'm not worried about lip sync in my ears watching their lips. I am worried about it when it's you watching, and I'm going to do my best to sync that up. And we'll have a show probably at some point about vMix call and creating a sync there. Danny's here, and Danny says, as a musician, any delay, and I think he means of his own audio, will make your head explode. Absolutely. And it doesn't take long. I mean, your head can explode in 5 seconds. Yeah, it's not good. Not good. Yeah, Jan is saying in the chat, he says, a tip for new users of vMix, if you're adding a camera source that has audio, and that could be like a webcam, it could be like one of my favorite cams that I started with was the Canon Vixia series, the HFR 100. I've got it in a box around here somewhere. It has a mic built into it. And when it's connected via HDMI, it will bring the audio over if vMix lets it. But Jan's advice is to say audio device equals none. For example, let's take a look here, and I'll show you what Jan's talking about. So we're going to go to Add Input, and let me bring this over where you can see it. Add Input, and we'll go to Camera, and we'll pick out a camera. Oh, let's just pick out the Logitech C920. Right down here, I've got Audio Device None. Oops, excuse me for just a second. It's like a speaker. You can't control it. In this case, you could turn it off. I have a big fat button here on the X keys. Thank you, Dan. That is my sneeze button. So here's the audio device. I could select the microphone webcam C920, and now I would have the camera with the audio attached, but I would prefer to handle my audio separately, even though it means I may end up with a sync issue somewhere else down the road. I want to control them separately for the most part, or in this case, I don't want the audio at all. So I've just added the C920 to my setup here, and you want to see what it looks like. It's not a particularly flattering shot. But now it comes in without the audio attached to it. It's just the camera. So Jan, that's a good tip. Good tip. And Jan's given some other good. If you're not watching, if you're not at Eastern, it just went off. If you're not at Eastern Shore Broadcasting, watching this live, and getting in on the chat, you really do. I think you miss out on some of the other stuff that you could otherwise get. That's just me talking, though. Just me talking. All right, so let's have some fun here for just a second as we close out the show, and we are going to set up some different audio devices, and I think I'm just going to make this fun. Yeah, this is my idea of fun. All right, so you ready? So we've got 4 different mics hooked up to this system. We've got the ATR 2100, which is the one that I'm on right now. We've got the AT is Audio-Technica now, AT 897, which is a boom mic right above my head. We've got the Shure mic right here, and we've got the Logitech C920 mic, which is right here. And I'm going to turn them all on for a second, but I've set them up with various amounts of delay.
So this is bound to drive you crazy. This is the ultimate echo chamber, where fortunately I can't hear it, but I know you can, and it's got to be absolutely terrible. So let's turn it back off.
But having done that, I've probably driven off all my audience. All right, so recap. Yeah, Chris says open mic game. Yeah, there's more than you want to know about that. Recap, if we're talking about audio troubleshooting, start with the simple stuff first. Take the source and work forward through it. And sometimes you may not know enough about it to know that, Windows has audio drivers. Yeah. Amnat says, all of Tom's personalities are talking at the same time. Yeah, we could do a whole show that way. No way. Start simple. Start with the simple stuff. Is the mic turned on? Is the mic on? Is that on-off switch working? Right there. Where is it? Is that on? Is it working? Is it connected? Is Windows hearing the audio? That's a common complaint I get, especially about Blackmagic capture cards. We'll go down a little rabbit trail again here for a second. People say, oh, vMix doesn't see my camera. Well, does the Blackmagic capture card see your camera? Because if the Blackmagic capture card doesn't see your camera, then vMix won't see your camera. And there's the Blackmagic video utility that you can go in and use to set your settings, and then Blackmagic Media Express that you can use to go in and check. And we may pop that into a show in future. All right, so let's wind up this baby. Let's wind up this baby. I want to thank you for popping in. Coming up next week, we don't have a special guest next week to my knowledge, but we'll come up with a great show of some kind, so it'll be a lot of fun. We do have coming up in the future, and I'll have to get back to you on exactly when the dates are. Dennis Washington, my good friend up in the Birmingham, Alabama area, wants to come, well, actually I asked him to come and talk about marketing, but specifically for churches and how to do social media for churches. So that's a little bit, a little bit on the fringe of what we're talking about. But if you're into churches, if you're working for your church or volunteering in your church's streaming ministry, then you'll want to make sure that you pop in for that one, and probably live so that you can ask questions. I think that's the best bet. Michael Wilson from my nearby state of Tennessee is going to come in at some point in July and talk to us about his streaming setup. We'll probably focus on his football streaming setup. So if you're looking forward to this is American football now, although it would work with European football, or what the rest of the world calls football, we call soccer. But if you're looking forward to doing American football in the fall, then you'll want to come in and get some good tips from Michael on that. So we've got Dennis coming up to talk about churches and social media and live streaming, and Michael coming up to talk about football and live streaming. It's going to really be good and really be fun. So I'll make sure you get the dates on that. We'll be posting those on the Streaming Idiots Facebook group. Oh, and by the way, if you're not a member of the Streaming Idiots Facebook group, you probably want to be. Oh, and you know what I forgot? What did I forget? What did I forget? Did I forget something? Did I forget something? Oh, yeah. This whole show is an infomercial for my company, EasternShoreBroadcasting.com. Thank you, Martin. Didn't Martin do a great job with his background? We design and build custom streaming PCs using vMix. We represent X-Keys and PTZ Optics and Magewell and Uon and Bird Dog TV. Look at the graphics in the background. Isn't that stunning? And so if you are in need of some or all of those products, either individually or some help getting them to work, let me know. Shoot me a line or go to our store at EasternShoreBroadcasting.com. So there you go. That's the infomercial. Thank you, Martin. Next week we'll have our Jaws of Death back and the theme song. So we'll add a little bit of theme song here as we go out. But thank you for showing up today. Hang around for the post show, and we'll be right back. Actually, we'll be right back live. We'll be right back with a new edition of Streaming Idiots next Wednesday, 3 o'clock Eastern. See you then. And we're done. Okay, and we'll take out the background music. Although I do really like that song. It just puts me in a good mood. All right. Oh, Dean's here. Hey, Dean. Did you get my email? I hope you did. I don't know that there's a whole lot of difference between what was the beta PTZ Optics PTZ Cam firmware update that I shared with you 2 weeks ago. I think it's exactly what they have on their website now. They're just not calling it a beta. They just updated it, and you just get the good stuff. For anybody that was having problems with their PTZ camera losing focus, the firmware update should help with that. And there's also a focus recalibration that you can get on their website. And if you've been having problems with your PTZ Optics camera forgetting who it is and forgetting its NDI license or other things like that, you'll want to get a hold of this firmware update and give it a shot. It's on the PTZ Optics website under Resources. All right, let's see. You're welcome, Dean. And Jan says, if you know how to use them, I'm not sure I do, but he's referring to something else. Martin says, good to see the conveyor belt of products going past today. Yeah, that's right. Martin, the last 3 weeks have been a disaster. Andrew, who got up at 4:30 in the morning in Queensland to watch this, says, great show. Thank you, Andrew. Don't feel obligated to get up at 4:30 in the morning in the future, but if you do, we'll love to have you. Chris does. Thank you, Chris. Jan says that was a great background. It was Martin K's work. All right, Dean says, I will download and install soon. Okay, that's good. Keep me up to date with how it goes. Rich says, not sure if this was asked already, but is there an ASIO site for drivers or just go to your audio hardware site? Rich, that's a great question. Some devices will work with ASIO drivers. The Behringer UMC 404 HD, when you download the new Behringer driver for the UMC 404 HD, the new driver download for that, when you do that, it installs the ASIO driver. So if you have a Behringer UMC 404 HD or the 202 HD, it will install the ASIO driver automatically. It's not a separate download. It's not a separate install. But as Jan says, you definitely want to go to the manufacturer's website to get that kind of stuff. I think there's a driver out there called ASIO 4, the numeral 4, ASIO for all. But I've not had a lot of success with that because the drivers that I wanted was the driver that came with the PC. And there's some mixers I have heard, I haven't seen it and I haven't been able to confirm it, but people are saying that there's some mixers out there that will do a Windows stereo audio and will do ASIO multi-channel. And I know like some of the digital mixers, like the Behringer X32, will bring in each of the 32 inputs into vMix as its own separate audio device. But I don't know of any analog mixers that do that. Danny says, I don't use ASIO with vMix, but I use it with my DAW. Yep. Yep. Jan says, but if you can get native ASIO support directly in the driver, it's absolutely preferable. Yeah, it will lower your headaches down from a lot to a little. Yeah, definitely. Who else showed up when I wasn't looking? John T's here. Welcome, John T. Guest 544. Dennis Creation. Rod in the UK. Larry. Dean, I've already shouted out to Dean there. Andras and Merle. Hey, Merle! Good to see you. Well, I can't really see you, but good to be seen by you. Jan says the Zoom L12 is a digital mixer with built-in USB and ASIO support. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And that's probably a best of both worlds situation, or it could be a worst of both worlds situation. If you're an idiot, idiots, we like simple stuff. You know, you got a round hole and a round peg, and you put the round peg into the round hole, and it works. And as you become less idiot-like, you can get more complicated and do other kinds of stuff. But I really start simple. I mean, some of the worst advice I gave people years ago was when I first got my Behringer X1204 USB mixer. And I said, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world, and I struggled with it. And I struggled to get it to do the kinds of things I wanted to do because I just didn't know enough to make it work. And I remember, you know, talking with the vMix guys, with Martin and Tim, about this, and you know, how can I get this, you know, to work? And they were kind of not really knowing themselves because they used the Behringer UMC 404, and vMix was designed to use something like that because it can bring in each audio channel and allow you to adjust, you know, all the kinds of things that you can adjust on a mixer, plus some in vMix. You know, most mixers don't have a noise gate built into them. Some of them have compression built into them. You know, they'll have gain built into it. Most don't have delay on a channel-by-channel basis. So it's nice to have that in vMix, and there are all your tools in one place. Let's say, Dean said, Merle says it's good to see me too. Well, thank you. Andrew says, what budget mic would you say was a good starting point for beginners? Oh, that's a great question. I think somebody else, Rudy says he doesn't have one, but the ATR 2100 is a great choice. And one of the reasons why I think it's a great choice is because if you don't have a mixer, this particular mic, oh, I keep picking it up and I'm forgetting you're attached, but it's got a USB jack on the back, so you can plug it into your PC directly via USB, and you don't even have to have a mixer if it's just one person. So that's really cool, and it's also XLR, which is that little three-prong kind of audio cord, And so you can plug it into a mixer or audio interface like the Behringer UMC 404 HD if you wanted to. Jan says the Zoom 112 has 8 XLR inputs, 2 stereo inputs, 2 stereo outputs, and 5 separate headphone outputs with individual mixes. Doo-da-roo. I like that. I like that. Jan, can you mix in, is it USB too? I mean, can you take a feed from your vMix PC into the mixer and have that as part of each person's mix, but without their own audio in it? See, that's when it gets complicated, and that's the challenge. Dean says he uses the Behringer X32 output via their ASIO driver and have input from all 32 channels available in vMix. Wow, I love it. I love it. We've got an X32 at our church, and I'm just taking an XLR output right now. I haven't had time to figure out the USB ASIO connection. Dean, I may have to bend your ear on that at some point. Jan says that all channels are addressable via ASIO, including the master stereo output. Cool. Jan says, so if you want to have a physical mixer with almost no limitations for your talk show, the Zoom L12 is about perfect. Sort of advanced to use, which means don't start there. That's what I think it means. Jan says, yes, you can take an output from vMix and put it into your headphone mixes via USB connected ASIO. All right. Otis, who was at the Streaming Idiots meetup at NAB, says, I use digital output from my Yamaha LS932 into my vMix via digital input. All right. And by the way, if you're thinking about it, if you're thinking about going to NAB next year, 2019, the dates are already published. I don't have them in front of me. It's in April. And NAB starts, the trade show starts on a Tuesday, ends on a Thursday. We'll be doing the meetup on that Tuesday night, whatever it is. So make sure if you're planning to go to NAB next year, make sure you stay over Tuesday so you can come to the Streaming Idiots meetup. You won't want to miss it. And that way you get to meet all these people that you're chatting with in chat all the time. I mean, Otis was there. Who else was there? Jerome was there. Dan was there. Rich was there. Dave was there. Timothy, were you there? I think Timothy was there. Daniel might have been there. Martin Kay came from England. Let's see. I think that's it from this list of today. But you know, it's a ton of fun, and it would be just great to have some of you crazy folks across the pond. Rudy, Jan, love to have you come. Let's see. Otis says, are you throwing Kyle and I another birthday party? Absolutely. Andrew says, by the way, what are you using to stream? OBS? No, we're an all vMix shop. I mean, you know, Andrew, I'm a vMix reseller. In fact, I'm vMix's #1 reseller in the USA. I have not really played with OBS ever. Started out with some other software, and once I found vMix, it was just like my searches ended. NAB New York, not going to be there. No, sorry. I've got one trip a year. Well, definitely going to be in Las Vegas. Amnon said he wasn't there, but he got a can holder. Jan says his setup using the L12 allows him 2 commentators to talk and hear each other, 1 commentator assistant to listen in and to talk to of the commentators, but not be heard by the rest of the show. They can hear all the audio from vMix, and the vMix producers can talk to the commentators and not be heard by the rest of the show. That's a good deal. That was probably a real piece of cake to set up, too. You had it set up in, you know, the first time 5 or 10 minutes, right? Yeah. No, I get that. All right, I need I need your advice here for a second. Yeah, Jan is definitely showing off, Larry. There's no doubt about that. Okay, so the question is, I haven't done a whole lot of sound treatment in this room, and I'd like to go back to the Audio-Technica mic, but I'm also curious about the lav mic. So I'd like to go back to the Audio-Technica AT897 because I just like it. It's out of the way. It doesn't take up room on the desktop. I don't have to put it on my chest. It's there. It works. But is it going to work in this room? So let me switch over to and get some feedback from you guys as to, is the volume okay? Do I need to do some sound treatment? Do I need to put some bass traps in the corners? What kinds of things do you think it would benefit from? In fact, let's go ahead and set the delay back to 250, which I think is about right. All right, Craig says, yes, it's boomy, really boomy. Really boomy. Is there anything set up on treatment on that? Am I using any EQ? No. No EQ, no compression, no noise gate, no plugins, and no auto, not using the automatic gain control, not adding any gain in vMix. And set about 5 o'clock on the Behringer. Greg says the other mic actually sounds much better. Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, it's the condenser mic versus a dynamic mic. But I just want to get the mic away from me, and I want to get it off the top. Now, I could take the Audio-Technica and hang it. It puts it a little further away. Well, maybe not. Let's see. What's this distance? That's going to be 8, 16, so maybe 20, or 8, 16, 24, so only about 4 more inches away. I might try that. Amnon says, can you show the room again? Yes. This is the room again right there. That is the room again. And as you can see, it's real temporary, real thrown together. In this picture, I was still getting some junk that the previous tenant had off the floor. You can see my PC rack in the foreground. Currently today, it's got a soundboard on the front, a soundboard on the back, and then it's covered in a moving blanket to cut down some of the audio. And you can hear my computer more now, Danny. Yeah, that's the condenser. That's the nature of that condenser mic. It really does pick up a lot of ambient noise. Cliff says, sounds good. Lower volume a tad and see if you can knock out a little reverb. We can do that. That's bringing it down just a little bit. It's not bad, but I hear a little and some room noise. Yep. I hear the room noise, and that's what I would expect. It's just a very live room right now. Texas Mike says, maybe start simple. Start simple. Oh, I like this. I like this. You're saying that on purpose, Texas Mike. I can tell. Start simple with a basic, cheap area rug for the tile floor and a drape over the big glass window. Yeah. Mike Lotta, hey Mike, I can hear the traffic going by outside, I believe. Yeah. And I think it's more noticeable with this mic than it is with the ATR 2100. Amnon says, yes, I see. Oh, wrong. Oh, well, you get to see the Martin K's video again. You do not need this whole space around you. Some use cubicle boards will allow you to divide the room and absorb most of the echo. You can get some that are 7 feet high. Yeah, this is definitely a temporary setup. Definitely a temporary setup. Cliff says it sounds better than a lot of news stations. Well, Otis says sound treatment. I'm setting up green room studio using rubber egg crate mattress pad covered by green screen fabric stapled to the wall. Ooh, I like that. I like that. Cliff says, can you have more than one guest in the room with that mic? You know, that's a good question, Cliff. Right now, I don't know. I have not tried it with more than one person. I know Dan and Amanda on the PI Engineering X-Key show on Friday use one mic for the two of them. I know the PTZ Optics shows and the Stream Geek shows, Paul and Tess are individually mic'd. And I think when we did the Streaming Idiots meetup at NAB and Dave and Kenny were doing interviews and Chuck were doing interviews, that and the guests that were interviewed, everybody was mic'd separately there, and you know, that was a very professional studio. I think that's probably the direction that I want to go as I begin to open this studio up to other folks, is that everybody's mic'd, everybody, you know, they come in through the Behringer one way or another, and we can treat their audio separately as we need to. Martin K says, I was waiting for Martin K to chime in. It sounds boomy because there's obvious some room reflection resonant frequency, so the room definitely needs some dampening and diffusing treatment to break up and absorb some of the reflected audio pass. And Martin mentioned this to me in an email the other day. Piles of big cardboard boxes randomly arranged can contribute to the overall treatment. I love it. I love it. Well, half of me loves it, and half of me thinks it looks like a warehouse. And I want to look professional and clean and not like a warehouse, so we'll have to find the balance. Otis says rubber market. Otis, you're going to have to help me with that one. Dean says, is there an XLR connection on the ATR 2100? Yes, there's an XLR connection. That's what I'm connected on right now. That's the big connector right here. And there's also a USB connection. And there's actually a volume connection on the bottom too. And there's a headset connection on it. So it's a versatile little mic. For a beginner, actually, you know, there are probably people that are still using this mic and they've been doing it for years. Amnon says, Tom could have more than one guest in there. My studio is smaller and I had as many as 4 guests on camera at one time. It can be done. Yeah, I think the question at that point becomes, Amnon, is how are they mic'd? I mean, remember that time you had me in your studio and it was you and me and Mike, and I think Nick was there. No, Spence was there. And I don't know if Nick popped in too. I mean, there were 4 or 5 of us. And I think, I don't think people had lapel mics. All right, Cliff's doing Sennheiser laughs. Dave says, wrap the boxes so they look like presents. Okay, got it. Jan says, don't go overboard and use it as an excuse to pile up boxes. Danny says his studio is a pig pen, but it keeps the sound suppressed very well. Danny, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. You know, the trick is, you know, your studio and my home studio, you know, that's your studio for you. And my home studio was my studio for me. The studio that I have here, the idea is that where the green screen is will be a whole green wall. And where the table is and where the chair is will be a seating arrangement for you know, up to 2 or 3 guests, maybe 4. And that the production will be moved to the far left side of the room. And then we'll have to do something drastic with lighting. So, and again, probably to use who was it? I forget now who it was that suggested the the carpet, but definitely some carpet or rugs. Martin says, how about piles of cardboard boxes tastefully covered with fabric drapes? Yeah. Good idea. Dan says, for our studio, we bought a bunch of sound deadening panels and glued them to the walls and ceiling. All right. Rich says, did you upgrade your lighting this week or just adjust your existing? Good lighting this week. Rich, I have to say, the difference between this week and last week is nothing. I've got all sorts of crazy lighting going on. It probably breaks all the... Thank you, Larry. It was the carpet, yes. I'm breaking all the rules of lighting. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to wear glasses and not get the lights in the glasses. And so it's, it's hard, and obviously I can't do any lighting dead on as a result. So the lighting this week is the same as last week. And actually, I had the camera white balanced last week, and I've left it on all week just to get it right. Danny says, don't use glue for wall panels. It's a pain to get them off later. I use tacks. Small holes are easier to fill. I agree with that. Or push pins. I like little push pins. That's my favorite. Little push pins. In fact, you can get green ones to do the green screen with. And I'd show you one of those, but it would just disappear. Mike L says he has used Auralex products before. Mike, you got to tell us more. You can't just throw it out there and just, tease us like that. You got to give us some idea of what it is, what it does, how you use it, and where we can get them. Yep, I'm not sure, Larry, if carpet is going to be my next step. I do have all these moving blankets around that I would dearly love to begin to cover the walls and the windows, and maybe even figure out a way to do something at the door. I'm thinking about hanging something from the ceiling about 4 feet inside the door that would go from floor to ceiling and would kind of block the light and hopefully absorb a little bit of the audio. Okay, Amnon said you couldn't see the lav mic in the air or its cord. Amazing. I don't understand that one. All right, Craig says, I have fabric-covered Owings Corning 703 2-inch compressed insulation inside wooden frames with an inch behind it against the wall for the sound to bounce around and dissipate. Ah. Well, I've got, I don't know if it's Owens Corning, but it is 2-inch fiberglass. They're just panels that are just sitting over there. Mike says it's used by a lot of recording studios. That automatically means it's out of my price range. Michael Graves says, I wish I could afford one of those lovely DPA D-Fine headsets. Yeah, they're about $800 each. Rich is going to try a new wireless remote camera based on drone FPV hardware this weekend. He's going to see if he can stream it from the paddleboard, flyboard, and jet ski races in Reno, Nevada. If you're there, come on by. Drop Rich a line. All right, let's see. So RLX Acoustics, and they will do a free personalized room analysis. Wow, that's cool. Might have to do that. And they do absorption, diffusion, room system, bass traps, freestanding specialty. Cool, thank you, Mike L. Oh, Amnon said you missed the post above the amazing. Oh, he said, I use 2 ATR 2100s for all 4 of them, 1 per 2 guests, about 2 feet away out of camera. I did have to play with the mixer and fade the one that was used. Mike is working on a device that will do this on the cheap side, but the best way was to hang a condenser lav mic in front of them. Since they were in a sort of circle, it worked great, but the AC was heard. That's the problem with the darn condenser mics. Yeah. So he says you couldn't see the lav mic in the air or its cord. Hey, that's cool. So I should hang a little lav right here. I bet you'd see it swinging back and forth. Andrew says, I use pool cleaning poles to hold my green screen up to the roof. That way I can pack it up. You hear the motorcycle? When it's not being used. Hello, William Lee. You could simply lay some carpet pad. Cheaper. I put it in some 2 weeks ago and it works great. How does it hold up to travel though? Oh, you put it on the wall. Uh-huh. Okay, that's interesting. Dan says, gotta go. Interesting show as always. Great. Dan, thank you and appreciate you sending over the plungers. Mike Lotta says, you're welcome. Timothy says, blackout curtains on the entry wall would probably help with audio. Yeah, I don't know that anything's going to take a motorcycle out. I'll just have to clear my voice, clear my throat until the motorcycle goes by. Mike says the Orlex products will give you a real professional look in the studio. Yeah, that's, you know, there's the look I want and the money I have, and that's how it goes. But that's where everybody else is. Dave E says you can use rock wool for sound treatment. Ah, that's a good idea. William Lee says use a Heil PR40. Rich says love the sound effects. You're welcome. You can record them and play them back on your show if you want. All right, let's see. Craig says I always wondered why your background has tearing in some of the color bars. It wasn't that way long ago. Huh. I wonder if I'm just wearing out that video. Let's see. What about this? Is that better? Let's see which one. Yeah, this one's got it too. That 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 one's got it too. Ah! Okay, well, I found that one. I was looking for that one. So the only one that doesn't appear to have the tearing is this one. Wonder why that is. Let's find the graphics page. And where is our graphics? The original graphic with that. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, it's going to be right there, I think. One second while we look. That's interesting. Do I have any color correction on? Do I have a color key? Yes, I have a color key. Maybe it's the color key that's doing it. That's what it was. It was the color key. So that should have fixed it on all of them. Yep. There we go. Thank you. Yes, Craig, you're exactly correct. It was the color key. All right, William Lee says he put carpet padding on the floor and it's holding up okay. Is that a professional, I mean a studio that you're bringing clients into, or is it just a personal studio? All right, Jan says a barbed wire will keep that motorcycle to a minimum if you string it across the road. Only a Dane would think of that. Now Craig can relax. Thank you, Craig. Danny had an SUV take him off his bike. Ow. John T says, that's the show starting. Timothy says, DIY video on sound panels. If you don't know Ray Ortega, he's a great guy and does professional. Yes. I think Ray did a nice one on sound panels. Yep. In fact, that's where I probably got the idea for these. Richard says, with your new place, do you have any heat issues with your equipment? Is it easier to cool your studio than your old place? I pre-cooled the studio. I pre-cooled it today to, I got it down to 76 before I turned it off completely. And that was at probably about 2 o'clock Eastern. So it's been an hour and a half, and it's up to 80 in here now. It's not unpleasant, but the PCs do put off a lot of heat. There's no doubt about that. But I think it's easier to cool because it's just this room and one system for this room. The air handler's in a closet. The compressor's on the other end of the building. It's a much, I think it's a much improved situation. But I still won't leave it running. You know, it's just one more piece of white noise in the background. Craig says, looks like there's just a chroma key applied to your background since it's keying out the green. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. William says it's a personal studio and that the padding is made of fiber, not rubber. Ah, okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yep. I was thinking of just a cheap 16 by 16 piece of rug or carpet with a hem around the edge, something like that. But something that's that's the thing, it's got to look okay as well as be functional. So we kind of have that question, can we make it work and not have it look too DIY? Even though it will be. I mean, my idea at some point is, and I'll probably will miss it for this November, although we'll just have to see, is to try to get some debates to come in here to the studio, or at least get some politicians to come in and give them some airtime and set up a local channel where we can bring local events, and then use that as a way to get a foothold locally, the same way we've kind of gotten a foothold nationally and internationally. I mean, just a toehold, and begin to get the word out. But I got to have the studio ready to do that, so it's one step at a time. At this point, it's just baby steps. Baby steps, just baby steps. All right, guys. Well, I am going to hit the road, as they say, because my honey is taking me out for dinner. Don't tell my wife. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Next year, in May, we will have been married 40 years. And I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier. And I know that that's not the situation for everybody. And for those of you that are in pain over that kind of relationship, I'm sorry. I really am. I'm sympathetic to that. Dave says, great show, Tom. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave. And I can't wait till I get the studio where I want so that I can put an overhead cam up, Dave. Timothy has an avocado green shag rug he's going to share. Thank you. Thank you. 40 years, that's right, to the same person. Yep, the whole time. Yep. Craig's at 36. Congratulations. Dean's at 42. All right, Dean. Good job. Andrew is at 70. Awesome. 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 Cliff says, can I come over and debate you? Oh, absolutely. That would be so much fun. That would be so much fun. I think that's part of what's missing in the political debates of today and the debates of any kind. I think people that debate ought to be friends first and ought to, make some ground rules as friends that says that our friendship is most important and that we won't do things that will jeopardize that. And then they can go in and debate till their heart's content, knowing that their friendship is most important. And I think if everybody did that in their debates, we would see a whole different tone. Whole different tone. Rich is at -3. But Rich has got a fine gal around now, last time I heard. So I'm happy for that. Cliff says, I can debate anyone and stay friends. That's great. That's it. John T. said, politicians have forgotten the art of debate. Yeah, it seems to be the art of attack. Yeah. Destruction. Jan says, damn, 40. Me and the wife only been going together 10 years, married for 8 of them. You guys are younger than I thought then. Holy cow. At least she is. You look like an old guy. But you're lucky. You married a hottie. So did I. Larry's not sure anymore. I get that. I get that. Cliff says they may not want to stay friends with me. But see, that's the thing. It's got to go deeper. It's got to go deeper than just a debate. It's got to be, my brother is of a different political persuasion than I in Virginia. And I came up with the idea, it's probably been a year and haven't moved forward on it, but that the two of us ought to do a debate. He from his political position, me from my political position, and that the kind of the focus or the whatever the shtick of the whole show would be that we're brothers, and that being brothers is more important than your political leanings. And it's one of these days we might be able to get it together. All right, Rich says, I can debate, but the wife is always right. Well, I guess there's external acquiescence. John married up. That's right. Oh, but less than 3 years difference. Wow. Yeah, Sandy and I are almost exactly 3 years difference. Our birthdays are 8 days apart, but 3 years apart. Andrew says, how do you tell when the politicians are lying to you? They open their mouth. Yeah, we've got a joke here about attorneys. How can you tell when an attorney is lying? His lips are moving. Yeah. William Lee says, I do not recommend the debate. Okay. Okay. Thank you for the input. All right, who's left here at the very end? The dregs of the show, as they say. Rich, Merle, Cliff, William, Dave, Larry, Jan, Craig, John, Dean, Amnon, Otis, Timothy, Danny, Andrew, Dave, Tommy, and Martin. Just hanging on, hoping that Tom will have some gem, some diamond in the rough at the very end of the show. Larry says, be careful with family, not worth the risk. Oh, Larry, I've been living with this guy all my life. It just, yep. John T., everyone should understand the logical fallacies before getting into debates. Oh, well, John, if that's the case, then there would be hardly any debates. I hear so many fallacious arguments, that people throw out there just because they're trying to deflect and defend. Danny says, my girl is 11 years younger than I, but in my defense, I'm very immature for my age. Well, there you go. It's a good match. Jan says, she makes more than me, though. I keep suggesting that I quit job and become a stay-at-home streaming husband. She does not agree with that. That's interesting. She's carrying a load of water. Amnon says, freebies. Yeah. Jan says, no, we wait for the giveaway. Andrew says, well, I have to go and start getting things ready for Cub Scouts tonight. I thought it was like 5 in the morning for you. Larry, well, with new Supreme Court justice should be your first debate. That would be a good debate. And that's big news here in the States today. And if you're wondering why I'm reading what's obviously written in chat, it's because there are probably twice as many people. Well, there's the same number of people in chat that are also watching that are not watching the chat. So I'm reading that out for their point, their benefit. John T. said, we're staying tuned, just hoping for an Oprah moment from Tom. Everyone's got a camera. Yeah. Well, look under your seat. Look under your seat. There's a little envelope taped to the bottom of your seat. Wouldn't that be a trick? Oh, goodness. I probably ought to do that with a live show, though. I mean, in the studio, is to tape something under their sheet and have them come and open it. That would be fun. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap up for sure. Your gems to hang in there to the bitter end. I appreciate you, everyone. And I will see you, or I will allow you to see me next week. Andrew has to travel to the den to get things set up before going to work. Okay, good. Well, happy Thursday there down under as our Wednesday begins to wind up. And like Merle, I say take care all. And I'm going to let this run out. So we'll catch you next week. Bye.